In the silence of the deep where sunlight surrenders to darkness, the ocean keeps its oldest secret. There is a glow, faint yet eternal, hidden in the ruins of a world swallowed by waves. They call it the crystal of Atlantis, a relic that once burned brighter than the stars themselves, a heart that pulsed with the lifeblood of a vanished empire. For ages it has slumbered beneath mountains of water and centuries of sand, yet the echoes of its power still ripple through time. Legends say it can heal or it can destroy, that it carries within it the memory of Atlantis, and that those who draw near to its light hear voices not of this world. Some dismiss it as myth, a tale to frighten sailors, but others swear the ocean hums with its call, and the hum grows louder with every passing century. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship in the dead of night, waves rising like dark walls, and in the silence between storms you hear Ida Euro, deep, resonant, alive. Not the groan of wood or the cry of gulls, but something older, something that feels as though the earth itself is speaking to you. That is how many who sought the crystal first felt its presence. They were not looking for it, yet it found them, pulling their eyes to the horizon, pulling their souls beneath the sea. The hum sank into their bones, guiding them toward a destiny they did not yet understand. The ancients wrote of Atlantis as a city of light, towers rising from the sea like spears of marble, streets paved with shining stone, gardens rich with fruit unknown to the rest of the world. Its people were said to live in harmony with forces beyond comprehension, channeling energy through crystals that sang when touched, crystals that bent light and time like glass bends water. At the center of it all, they placed one crystal above all others, vast, radiant, alive. The high priests called it the breath of the ocean. It was worshipped, protected, and feared. They believed it carried a soul, a consciousness older than mankind, a voice that whispered knowledge to those worthy of hearing it. The kings of Atlantis claimed their power came not from crowns or armies, but from the crystal itself, for through it they could summon rain to feed their crops, calm storms to guide their fleets, and heal wounds with a mere touch of its light. But the story of Atlantis is not one of triumph. Power, once tasted, is never enough. Kings demanded more from the crystal, priests sought to command it, and warriors sought to use it as a weapon. The balance shattered. The crystal Euro's hum, once harmonious, grew discordant, trembling with fury. Then came the night of fire and flood. The ground split, the seas rose, and the city of wonders was devoured by its own ocean. Some say the crystal itself cried out, a scream so loud that mountains shook and skies burned. When the waves receded, Atlantis was gone. All that remained was silence, and in that silence, a faint glow beneath the waters. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell, yet always there were whispers. Sailors charting unknown waters spoke of strange lights shimmering below. Divers resurfaced with eyes wide in terror, claiming they had heard voices in the deep, voices that called them by name. Maps surfaced in secret, drawn with shaking hands, showing symbols of a jewel placed far beyond the reach of ordinary men. Philosophers spoke of a lost fire at the bottom of the sea, and alchemists dreamed of crystals that could grant immortality. But no one returned with proof. Every expedition that dared to follow the call ended in silence, swallowed like Atlantis itself. Still, the hunger endured. In forgotten archives, in the corners of dusty libraries, in the dreams of restless seekers, the crystal whispered. And those who heard it could not resist. It came in fragments, in visions, in dreams soaked with salt and shadow. They saw ruined halls draped in coral, statues cracked but unbroken, and in the center, a glow that pulsed like a heart. Some woke in cold sweat, unable to breathe, as if the sea itself had filled their lungs. Others woke with a sense of longing, as though a part of them had been left behind in the dream. Each one knew the same truth: the crystal was real, and it was waiting. And so, across centuries, men and women built ships and risked storms to chase the hum in their bones. Some sought knowledge, others power, and some simply could not endure the silence anymore. But the ocean is not generous. For each ship that set sail, few returned, and those who did came back changed. They spoke of shadows moving in the deep, of ruins that vanished when approached, of voices that sounded like their own but spoke words they had never known. A captain once returned half mad, clutching a shard of green stone he swore was part of the crystal, yet within days it turned to dust in his hands. Another claimed he had seen the glow itself, a beam of light like a heartbeat beneath the sand, but when he dove again it was gone, as though the sea had swallowed the truth to punish his greed. And still the call persisted. Now, in the present day, technology has pierced the mysteries of the sea. Satellites map trenches, submarines dive to crushing depths, and sonar paints pictures of the unseen. And yet, even now, the ocean keeps its secret. Explorers descend with steel and science, but they too hear the hum. They too feel the pull. And some vanish, just as their ancestors did. For the crystal does not belong to time, and it does not belong to man. It waits, patient as the sea itself, waiting for the one who will listen not with ears, but with soul. They say if you close your eyes in the depths, if you surrender to the dark and let the ocean cradle you, you will hear it. A low vibration, steady as a heartbeat, older than the world. It is neither welcoming nor cruel. It simply is. And with it come the ekisa euro, the voices of those who sought before you, the cries of kings and the whispers of priests, the pleas of drowned sailors and the laughter of those who embraced the call. All of them, reaching out through the Cristalla Euro's song, warning or beckoning, no one knows. Some believe it is the memory of Atlantis itself, etched into the heart of the crystal, playing endlessly like a chorus trapped in time. Others believe it is alive, and that the voices are not memories at all, but the crystal speaking through the dead, reminding the living that the ocean never forgets. The truth lies below, where light cannot follow, where the weight of the world presses against your chest and silence reigns supreme. It is there, in the forgotten depths, that the crystal waits. The ocean does not reveal its secrets easily, yet there are always those who cannot resist chasing what others fear. In the last century, when men built machines capable of piercing the abyss, the whispers of the crystal grew louder. A team of explorers vanished near the Azores, their final transmission little more than a broken hum that made radios tremble. A submarine crew reported strange lights moving in patterns no creature could make, only for their vessel to be found drifting, empty, the hatches sealed tight from within. Another expedition in the Caribbean claimed to discover ruins on the seafloor, arches and pillars half buried in sand, but when they returned to retrieve them, there was nothing but rock. It was as if the sea had shifted overnight, burying the truth as quickly as it revealed it. But there was one story that could not be buried. In the late 20th century, a diver named Elias Wren drifted too far from his team during a routine survey. When he surfaced, his eyes were glassy, his words broken. He spoke of a glow that had filled his mask, a light that pulsed like a heartbeat. He swore he heard voices whispering his name, voices that told him he had been chosen. His teammates thought the pressure had driven him mad. Yet in the days that followed, Elias drew maps of structures no one had seen, carved symbols on walls in his sleep, and spoke a language no one could understand. Then one morning, he was gone, his wetsuit left neatly folded on the shore. His journal contained only one sentence, written over and over again: "The crystal is awake." Since then, countless seekers have followed the same path. Some arrive with science, armed with sonar and scanning tools, convinced that the mystery is geological. Others arrive with faith, believing they are destined to restore Atlantis. And some arrive with greed, imagining the crystal as a weapon to control nations. But the ocean chooses who it allows near, and most who try never return. And yet, the legend endures. There are moments when the hum rises above the silence, moments when entire crews hear it together, when compasses spin without reason, when the water itself seems to glow from below. In those moments, the line between myth and reality blurs. Fear grips the heart, but wonder pushes men forward. For what lies in the deep is not just a story. It is power. Those who claim to have seen it describe the ruins first. They speak of roads paved with stone that no current should have preserved, statues with faces half erased by centuries, doorways that lead into blackness where fish do not swim. The ruins are draped in coral, jeweled with shells, and yet there is a silence there unlike any other place in the sea. Even the creatures of the deep give it wide berth. And then, beyond the ruins, the glow appears. At first, it is faint, like moonlight bleeding through water. But as you draw closer, it sharpens, burning with a clarity that defies the darkness. It is not just light. It is rhythm, a pulse. Each flash resonates through your chest, as though your own heart beats in answer. And in that moment, the voices return. They do not speak in words. They speak in knowing. They fill your mind with memories not your own, with sights of towers rising, of crystal pathways blazing with light, of people chanting in unison as the crystal shone at their center. For a moment, you are no longer yourself. You are Atlantean. You are part of the empire that fell. But the vision does not last. The crystal is not generous. The hum grows louder, unbearable, until it shakes your bones. Then comes silence, crushing, absolute. And when you return to yourself, the glow is gone. You are alone in the dark, your air running thin, the weight of the sea pressing you down. Yet still, seekers return. For once you have heard the Crystal Euro's call, you can never forget it. It lives in your dreams, it follows you in silence, it draws you back again and again until either you find it, or it finds you. Some say this is the curse of the Crystal Euro, that it does not want to be found, but it wants to be chased. That it feeds on the longing of men, dragging them into the depths one by one. Others say it is not a curse, but a test, that the crystal waits for the one heart strong enough to bear its weight, the one soul it can trust to carry the memory of Atlantis into the world above. No one knows which is true. But one truth remains constant, the ocean guards it still. And when the hum rises in the water, when the glow flickers in the dark, when the voices call your name, you must make a choice. Will you turn back, leaving the secret where it belongs? Or will you descend, deeper into the forgotten depths, where the crystal waits with echoes of a world long drowned? The ocean is endless, but there are places where its silence feels heavier, where the water itself seems to breathe. It was there that the next great descent began, a mission cloaked in secrecy, led by those who believed they were prepared for what waited below. Their vessel was armed with the latest sonar, cameras built to withstand crushing pressure, and submersibles capable of crawling across the ocean floor. Yet no machine could prepare them for what they would find, for the crystal does not reveal itself to steel and glass. It reveals itself to the soul. As they sank deeper, the surface world faded. The waves, the sky, even time itself seemed to dissolve. Only the hum remained, soft at first, then louder with every passing meter. Some of the crew pretended not to hear it, blaming faulty equipment, but in the silence of their cabins, their hands shook. They dreamed of corridors lined with light, of voices whispering in languages they had never learned. And when they awoke, they swore the walls of the ship glowed faintly in the dark. Days passed, and then the seafloor rose to meet them. At first it was only jagged rock, but soon patterns emerged a euro, angles too sharp, lines too precise to be natural. They were ruins. Arches half buried, staircases leading nowhere, statues whose faces had eroded into hollow masks. The explorers walked among them in silence, their lights cutting through the dark like thin blades. Every step felt watched, every breath borrowed. Even the sea life that lingered in the depths moved cautiously, circling the ruins but never entering. Then came the glow. It appeared as a faint shimmer at the edge of vision, a trick of the light at first. But as they followed, it grew stronger, spilling across stone like moonlight on water. The closer they drew, the more their hearts raced, until they realized the glow was beating. Not constant, not steady, but pulsing, as if alive. Each flash was followed by silence, each silence by a rush of voices, 1,000 whispers carried through the sea. The explorers froze, torn between wonder and terror. Their machines registered nothing unusual, yet their very bones told them otherwise. The hum was no longer in the water. It was in them. They pushed forward. The ruins opened into a vast chamber, walls carved with symbols that seemed to shift as light touched them. At the center was the source, half buried in sand and coral, yet unmistakable a euro, a crystal the size of a man, its surface fractured but still glowing from within. The light spilled across the chamber, revealing carvings of men kneeling, arms raised, as though worshipping it. For a moment, the explorers forgot themselves. Awe drowned fear. The crystal pulsed once, twice, and the chamber filled with visions. They saw a city alive again, towers gleaming, streets filled with voices, banners fluttering in the wind. They saw priests laying hands on the crystal, their wounds closing in an instant, their eyes shining with unnatural light. They saw kings raising their arms, storms bending to their will, seas parting at their command. And then, they saw the fall. The crystal shaking, splitting, its hum rising to a scream. The sky tore open, the sea roared in, and all was drowned in darkness. The visions ended as suddenly as they began. The crystal dimmed, the chamber grew still, and the explorers found themselves gasping, though their suits had never run out of air. Some fell to their knees, others wept, and one pressed their hands against the crystal as though begging it for more. The hum answered, deeper now, vibrating through stone and bone alike. And then, words. Not spoken, not heard, but understood. Remember us. The explorers staggered back. They looked at one another, terrified, yet none could deny it. The crystal had spoken. It had reached into their minds, planting memory like a seed. And though fear burned in their veins, hunger burned stronger. For if a fragment of its power could show them this, what else might it grant? Knowledge beyond science, energy beyond measure, dominion over the very forces of the earth. The crystal was not just a relic. It was a god waiting to be claimed. But the sea does not give without taking. The hum grew violent, the sand around the crystal shifting, the ruins trembling as though the ocean itself rejected their presence. Statues cracked, dust rose, and shadows twisted at the edges of their lights. The explorers scrambled, torn between retreat and obsession. One voice cried out that they must leave, another swore they were chosen. Hands reached for the crystal, and in that instant, the chamber roared. The hum became a scream, their lights shattered, and the ocean swallowed them in darkness. Only fragments of the expedition returned. A submersible, drifting empty. A journal, pages soaked in salt, words blurred but one phrase repeated over and over, the echoes are alive. And so the legend grew. The crystal was no longer myth but memory, no longer silence but voice. Those who heard its call could never unhear it. They were haunted, drawn back to the sea like moths to flame, desperate to touch again what had once touched them. And somewhere in the dark, the crystal waited, patient, knowing that one day someone would not resist. The ocean never releases what it takes, yet sometimes it allows fragments to surface, reminders of what waits below. After the last expedition vanished, stories began to spread. Too many to dismiss, too consistent to ignore. A fisherman off the Azores swore he pulled a net from the sea glowing with faint blue light, though when he touched it, the glow sank into his skin and vanished. A cargo ship drifting through the Sargasso Sea reported a low hum that vibrated through its steel hull for hours, leaving the crew sleepless and trembling. Off the coast of Greece, a diver disappeared in calm waters, his final recording little more than his own voice whispering words in a language no scholar could identify. And then there were the dreams ordinary people, thousands of miles from the ocean, waking in the night with visions of towers crumbling beneath waves, of a crystal pulsing in the dark, of voices calling them to come home. The world above began to take notice. Scientists studied anomalies in the deep, readings of energy that defied explanation. Religious sects declared the return of Atlantis a prophecy fulfilled. Secret societies whispered that the crystal was stirring, and that whoever reached it first would hold dominion over the earth itself. Governments launched silent expeditions, cloaked in research but driven by greed. Each returned with nothing but fragments, half-burned footage of ruins, recordings of voices whispering through static, shards of stone that dissolved in air. And yet, every failure only fueled the hunger. The crystal was awake, and it was calling louder. Among those who listened was a man who had nothing left to lose. His name was Jonah Vera, a marine archaeologist disgraced after years of chasing myths. He had devoted his life to Atlantis, mocked by colleagues, abandoned by sponsors, his career rotting beneath the weight of ridicule. Yet he had one thing others did not: a journal left behind by Elias Wren, the diver who had vanished decades earlier. In it were sketches of symbols, maps drawn in frantic strokes, and a single phrase repeated until the pages tore: the echoes are alive. Jonah believed. And belief is a dangerous fuel. He gathered a crew, not scholars or soldiers, but those as desperate as he was. A salvage diver drowning in debt, a linguist who claimed to dream in ancient tongues, a navigator who had once sworn never to sail again. Together they followed the map no one else had dared to trust. And as they crossed the Atlantic, each began to hear it. The hum, soft at first, then constant, a presence that filled their silence. At night they dreamed the same dream: the crystal glowing in the abyss, the ruins rising like teeth from the seafloor, voices whispering their names in unison. By the third week, they no longer doubted. They no longer argued. They were chosen. When they reached the coordinates, the ocean greeted them with silence. The waves stilled, the wind died, and the sea stretched flat and black as glass. They lowered their vessel into the deep. The further they sank, the more the hum consumed them. It vibrated in their teeth, in their blood, in their bones. Instruments failed, compasses spun, and yet none of them cared. They were no longer guided by maps or machines. They were guided by the crystal itself. The ruins appeared suddenly, vast and impossible. Towers tilted like broken teeth, arches still standing against the weight of centuries, carvings glowing faintly in the dark. The crew moved among them like pilgrims, lights sweeping across memories carved in stone. And then the chamber revealed itself. There it was. The crystal. Larger than Jonah had ever imagined, fractured yet whole, glowing with a light that seemed to pulse with their very heartbeats. The crew fell silent. The hum rose, and with it came the voices. They were not whispers now. They were a chorus, layered and endless, speaking through memory, through thought, through soul. The crystal showed them visions a euro, Atlantis before the fall, the crystal blazing in its center, the people raising their arms in worship. Then came the storm, the fire, the flood. The vision shattered, and they stood once more in silence, trembling. Jonah stepped forward. His hand hovered above the surface of the crystal. The hum grew sharp, pulling him closer. His crew shouted, warned, begged, but he could not hear them. For in the glow, he saw everything he had ever sought a euro, proof, redemption, immortality. His hand touched the crystal. Light erupted, blinding, burning through the chamber. The ocean roared. The ruins shook. The crew was thrown to the floor, their suits rattling with force. And then, silence. When the light dimmed, Jonah was gone. In his place, only the crystal remained, glowing steady, humming louder than before. The crew fled. They surfaced half mad, babbling of voices and visions, their words fractured and frantic. Some claimed Jonah had been consumed. Others swore he had become part of the crystal itself. But all agreed on one truth: it was alive. And now it was no longer dreaming. It was waking. The survivors of Jonah Euro's crew returned to the surface broken, but the world did not ignore their words. They spoke of a glow that devoured the dark, of a voice that spoke through the water, of a man who vanished into light. Their footage was fragmented, corrupted by static, yet within the noise there were frames that no one could deny. A chamber carved with Atlantean symbols, a crystal pulsing like a living heart, shadows moving where no man stood. Scientists dismissed it as artifact, governments denied its existence, but those who had heard the stories before, those who had dreamed the dreams, knew the truth. The crystal was no longer silent. It was calling louder, not to one, not to few, but to all. Strange events began to ripple across the world. Off the coast of South America, fishermen pulled nets heavy with fish whose scales glowed faintly blue, as though lit from within. In the Mediterranean, entire villages woke the same night screaming from the same dream, a city drowning, a crystal blazing, voices whispering their names. Instruments around the globe picked up frequencies no machine could explain, a low vibration beneath the threshold of hearing, constant, steady, like a heartbeat. And in every corner of the world, people claimed they could hear Ida Euro, not with their ears, but with their souls. The crystal was awake. Some were drawn in awe, believing it was a gift returned to mankind. Others trembled, convinced it was a curse, the harbinger of another flood. Armies prepared in silence, corporations whispered of endless energy, cults gathered on coastlines to pray to the sea. And through it all, the hum grew stronger. Ships reported compasses spinning, storms forming without warning, lights flickering beneath the waves. It was as if the ocean itself was alive, breathing with the rhythm of the crystal. The survivors who had touched the ruins were not spared. They changed. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark, their dreams consumed by visions. Some spoke in voices not their own, repeating phrases in Atlantean tongues long dead. One by one, they vanished, drawn back to the sea as if the crystal had planted something inside them, a seed that would not rest until it returned to its source. And those who resisted wasted away, hollowed by something no medicine could cure. Then came the final sign. Across the Atlantic, deep beneath the waves, a beam of light rose from the ocean floor, piercing the surface like a pillar of fire. Satellites captured it, ships raced toward it, and for 3 days the world stared at the sea in awe. On the 4th day, the light vanished. In its place was silence. But the hum remained, louder, clearer, unstoppable. And in that silence, in the deep where no man could see, the crystal pulsed once more. With each beat, the ruins stirred, shifting as though the city itself remembered. Stone cracked, statues moved, corridors long buried opened their mouths to the sea. The echoes of Atlantis had never been lost. They had been waiting, waiting for the crystal to awaken, waiting for mankind to return. No one knows what will come next. Some believe the crystal will rise again, lifting Atlantis from the depths, restoring its glory. Others fear it will bring the same destruction that drowned it before, a storm to swallow the world once more. But one truth is undeniable: the echoes grow louder, the call spreads wider, and the ocean no longer keeps its secret. Perhaps one day you will hear it too. Perhaps one night, in the silence between dreams, you will feel the hum in your chest, steady and ancient, a voice whispering your name. And when it comes, you will face the same choice as all who came before. To turn away, to ignore the Kala Euro, or to follow it into the forgotten depths, where the crystal of Atlantis waits, patient and eternal, humming with the memory of a world drowned in light. And if you do a Euro, the ocean will never let you go.